Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to today's office hours with Our Hometown. My name is Matt Larson. I'm your host for today. And on the call, I've got Terry calling in from Publisher Support. Terry, welcome.
Hey Matt.
How you
Hey.
doing this morning?
Good, good.
Well, this afternoon. Sorry, it's 1 o'clock now. But we're coming to you live as we do every Monday. And just this is an open office hours. Just you can trickle in at any time. We usually talk for about an hour, and we're open to discuss any questions that you have. But today's main focus is going to be on reverse publishing. This is yet another office hours and another conference that we're doing on this topic for September. We've been talking about this a lot, and we've been getting a lot of great feedback. It looks like there's quite a few publishers that are going to be switching to this in the near future. And so we just want to keep digging into the details of all the different options that this provides. And so today we're going to really be talking about some of the pro tips, as I call them, for getting the most out of this plugin. And so we'll discuss how you can export the bold and italics on your articles. So that all is going to come through. So you can make your words bold and italic on WordPress, and all that information is going to get transferred over to InDesign. So you don't need to, remember to make a word bold or anything like that. It's all carried over in the XML, and I'm going to demonstrate that. And then we'll also go through merging changes. We actually discussed this briefly in the virtual conference Friday, but we're going to go over that and just show you how you can make a change on the website. Really just the best practice for making changes on your articles after you've already laid them out in InDesign. So, let's say you have a story, it's still evolving, and then the article needs to change after you've laid it out in InDesign. How would you go about merging those changes? And so we'll talk about that in detail in just a minute. So that's the office hours topic. But as always, I want to kick it off with some Our Hometown news. This is just part of a series of videos that we're doing on news affecting the newspaper industry, and also news happening at our hometown specifically, and some of the things affecting our customers. So this is actually from our publisher newsletter last week. A big congratulations to NYPA customers, the New York Press Association. They announced their Better Newspaper contest winners recently, and these are actually from last year. Usually they would announce these at the NYPA convention that they have every spring, usually in Saratoga Springs. And I was really looking forward to going to that this year, but of course it was canceled along with all the other conferences. And so they announced them recently to New York customers. And of course, we're from New York, our company. So we have a lot of papers in New York. And so we put together a blog post, and this was included in the newsletter last week, but in case you missed it, all the winners were announced here. I think we saw really big winners up in the Buffalo area, the B newspaper group, who's been customers for a long time, great group of papers up there. A really nice guy, Mike Meeser, who runs that. You usually see him at the convention every year, but couldn't this time. And also the neighbor to neighbor newspapers. They are relatively new customers, also from the Buffalo area in Amherst. And Grant, the publisher there, Grant Hamilton's a great guy, and I actually visited that paper and the B newspaper group the last time I was in Buffalo, saw their offices, and got to know them a little bit better. Went out to lunch. It was a really good time. So we put together a little slideshow for them. Just this is actually the slideshow that they would normally show at the convention every year. And so we just wanted to share that with all of our customers, and give these publishers some credit for some really great work. I think I don't know if they most of these are for advertising, for reporting, photography, and that kind of thing. We actually saw some winners up at Putnam County News and Recorder, another longtime customer. The Wave down in Long Island. They won a bunch of things, editorial cartoon, and actually Garden City News is among the winners too. Meg Norris down there in Long Island. I wanted to show you this one though. I remember this being announced by the Wave, this really cool graphic that Paula did at the Wave for, I guess it was over the summer, just like the whole, section of Far Rockaway, just all these really cool graphics. I thought that was particularly cool. I used to live down in the Brooklyn area, and I would go visit the Wave out on Rockaway and go to the beach down there and stuff. So this one stood out to me. I really liked what they did with that. So check it out. This is all on our blog, and we had a lot of winners among our customers this year. So that was really cool to see. Okay. The other story that we've got here, well, actually, let me go back to the newsletter, because there's really a lot that we put in this newsletter, and we do these newsletters twice a week, and each newsletter has usually several links in it. So if you're not getting the newsletter, definitely email us at ops, and we'll make sure that you get on the newsletter list, or we figure out a way to make sure that you're getting these, because sometimes they go to different folders, maybe your promotions folder in Gmail or in your spam folder. Unfortunately, sometimes these things end up there because they do kind of look like marketing emails. But this second story is about the NYP or the NNA virtual conference. I've been talking about this for weeks now. Really, a lot of anticipation behind this. It's finally going to happen. This is our next virtual conference. We've been doing them every 2 weeks leading up to this. And so October 1st through the 3rd, we're going to be speaking. We're going to have 5 sessions at this conference. But I wanted to bring this to everyone's attention because we actually got published in the Pub Aux, which is the NNA's print publication. They publish that once a month. And for the September issue, I think I'm actually going to be getting one in the mail pretty soon here. So that'll be cool. Maybe I'll bring it to the next office hours. They published an article that we wrote about the convention, and it was titled NNA Virtual Conference Leads Newspaper Industry. And I really meant that. I thought that was a great way to lead off this article, because they were one of the first to announce that they were doing a virtual conference. And we were really inspired to do our own conferences when we heard that they were doing it. And now more of the state associations are starting to follow their lead. But there's basically 4 areas in this article that I want to just bring to everyone's attention. First of all, these are the topics that tie together all of our sessions. First of all, we're just talking about the trends that we're seeing in the industry as the whole COVID shutdown has affected all businesses in the US and across the world, but especially how it's affected newspapers. And specifically, it's accelerated the decline in print revenue. That's one thing that we've seen. A lot of newspapers had to reduce their print frequency, or some newspapers have stopped printing altogether. And so this is a trend that's been happening and been moving forward since I started at the company. For the past 12 years, we've seen this, but it's never, been such a dramatic acceleration as it has the last few months. So we're going to be talking about the sessions relevant to this would be rethinking paywalls for paid print newspapers, because that's one way to supplement that declining print revenue, is to focus more on your paywall, especially if you're a print newspaper. We'll be talking to Cecile Werman about some of her strategies for increasing revenue, some of the really creative things she's done. I think I'm actually going to try to work in this whole thing that she's doing with the students with what is it called? I forget what she actually calls it. It's like, let's see, journaltrib.com. She's doing student coupons. So this doesn't, directly increase the revenue because it is a coupon for a free subscription. Is that right, Terry? She's giving this away to families. Yeah, it's free, right? To local families. But this is smart because it gets people, the next generation interested in the newspaper. She's getting her foot in the door with all these kids, and I think this is a great thing for people to focus on in school. Reading the local newspaper could almost be a whole part of history class or social studies or something like that. Local social studies. Do you guys have any thoughts on that, Terry, or anything? Any other ideas that have come from Cecile on this?
Cecile always has great ideas, and everything is so well thought out by the time she gets to us.
Right.
There's not much that we really have to think about. She's got some great ideas, but I love what she did with this. She worked really hard to do this for these kids. It's just awesome. It's a great way to get kids excited about local news and
Right.
current events.
Right, exactly. Yeah. I remember in high school there was like there was like 1 or 2 weeks where we were asked to read like one article a week from the newspaper, and that was like honestly one of the first times I had ever opened a newspaper. It was a great way to get me into that, but it wasn't a regular part of the curriculum. I think this could be. I mean, this could really be a great opportunity for newspapers to get more into this. So anyway, a little bit of a tangent there. Let's get back to the virtual conference. Another way that we've seen papers fighting this decline in print revenue is to introduce donation strategies. So we're going to be talking to Tom Lapis of the Henrico Citizen at the NNA convention and talking about specifically some of the ways that he's increasing donation revenue. The second area of focus, the second theme, I guess you could say, of these conferences is going to be the increasing preference for readers to access news via digital, especially mobile. And we see this in our statistics. The majority of readers are accessing the news via mobile now. So you've got to be mobile responsive. But I'm actually talking more about how this impacts free print newspapers in this session, okay? Because this is something that we've seen more and more of, and actually the Acorn newspapers was one of the first ones that came to me and pointed this problem out. I didn't realize what an issue it was. It never even occurred to me. But what Jim Rule there said to me one day when I was visiting them at the office, it was like really candid with me. He just said, I'm so sick of subscribers canceling their print subscription, which is free for them to receive. They're canceling it because they get all the news for free online anyway. And the subscribers thought that was a good thing, and they were, happy to tell the publisher that they were maybe saving them one less print, issue, the paper on that, or the delivery costs. But the thing that they don't understand is that the free print model is dependent on the circulation numbers, and you need to keep those numbers high so that advertisers want to keep advertising in your print edition. So that's the issue, and we're actually seeing another paper, the Chesterfield Observer, launching a paywall. Even though they're free in print, they're launching a paywall on the website. So more and more papers are warming up to this idea. So we're going to be discussing rethinking paywalls for free print newspapers, and we're going to lay out that whole argument. We're going to lay out some of the strategies that we've seen for publishers, what kind of paywalls they set up, how do they market them, and how do they monetize that audience. So that'll be another discussion. The third theme of the convention will be the decentralization of news production into cloud-based workflows. And we're going to talk about reverse publishing to cover that subject, reverse publishing from website to InDesign, because that is a whole new workflow that is cloud-based. You don't need to be in the office to put together the paper. It's all based around the website, which is accessible from anywhere. And so we'll be interviewing Meg Norris again, but that'll be with this new audience of the NNA audience. So this is actually a topic that we've covered a couple times now in our virtual conferences, but we'll be doing it again for NNA. And then the last theme that we really think is important for newspapers to be focused on is this opportunity to branch out into multimedia, into video and audio, just to capture a larger audience. There's no reason that you need to be restricted to the written word. I think that the opportunity here has actually been created by COVID, because this shutdown has kind of got everyone working remotely anyway and using all these virtual collaboration tools for remote work like Zoom or other video sharing software. So they all have Zoom downloaded on their computer. It's like the first step. And culturally, people are getting used to doing more screen sharing and webcam sharing. This was not something that you ever saw people do before March. I started doing it a little bit myself in February, just by pure coincidence. I started doing all my sales calls and doing some publisher interviews this way, but I did not anticipate, the whole shutdown. It was really not even a news story at that point. And I definitely didn't anticipate everyone using this software, but that's what's happening now. And there's all this video content that that's being created. You can record all of this stuff, all these town hall or school board meetings that are being streamed on Zoom. They could be recorded and then turned into content that the newspaper shares through YouTube. You can create a podcast from these videos. So that's what this last session is about: how to produce high yield content from video interviews. We'll talk about our process for doing publisher interviews and how we take that live interview and turn it into all different types of content. A text article, we create a podcast, and then we create video highlights, all from just one video interview. So that's going to be coming up October 1st through the 3rd at the NNA. Check it out, nna.org/convention. It's $50 for the whole convention. It's 3 days worth of speakers, a lot of value, and that's the only cost. You don't need to travel to some city and pay for the hotel and everything. So this is going to be the future of conferences with all industries, but especially the newspaper industry.
And the drinks are really cheap this year.
What's that? Say it again.
The drinks are really cheap this year.
Yeah, the drinks, right. You just get your own bottle, and yeah, it's way more economical than going to the bar. So yeah, for sure. It should be fun. They have a lot of things planned. I think they're doing like a bingo. They're doing like a show your pet off or something. I don't know if I'm going to get my dog to cooperate. Maybe I can get her to come up here next to my little studio, but we'll see about that. This should be a really good time. And the other newsletter that we put out last week, I wanted to point this out. Using Twitter lists for live news on your website was the topic. And so let me just read through this post that Jack wrote. It's really well said. In today's digitally dominated world, social media platforms like Twitter are often the best sources for following live news as it happens. Before the TV crews show up and before the articles are written, many news stories, big and small, start out as a single message from a person who sees something happen in real time and decides to tweet about it. I think the broader point here is that newspapers can be using Twitter to get information. It's not that the story is in just the tweet. That's just your lead, okay? And this is how newspapers are going to help combat fake news, because this stuff is getting put out there and then it's getting all this momentum because no one is really vetting the information or, looking into it further. So I think some of the really cutting edge newspapers are using Twitter. They're following people in their community that are really active on there, local politicians. And the thing is that the lists feature is a way to kind of vet these accounts and just verify that they're real, so and trustworthy, because there's this whole feature with Twitter. I honestly don't use Twitter a lot myself, but if you ever look at certain tweets from, like, the president or the governors of all these different states that are very active on there, they have like verified accounts that are proven to be real. They're somehow checking that these are actually those people's accounts, and they're not just some kind of bot out there that's taken their name. So Twitter has this feature to authenticate accounts, but on the local level, that's not really going to happen because Twitter is a huge company. I don't think that they're really going to be able to authorize or authenticate the local mayor's account. But you as the newspaper could do that. And then you can feature those accounts, their tweets, on your website in a Twitter list. So that's what this is all about. You can go through, put together a list of people in the community that you've maybe reached out to and confirm that this is actually the director of the school board, or this is the principal, and all the tweets coming from this account are legit, and we'll feature them on our website. So it's just a really exciting way to use Twitter, I think, in a more effective way, and actually get news from it that's valid and trustworthy. So that was one thing that we talked about in the publisher newsletter last week, and that's pretty much it. We had the virtual conference on Friday, so hopefully everyone that wanted to attend was able to join us live, but we're going to be putting out the full video on that tomorrow in the newsletter. Okay. Any questions or comments on that, Terry or Vera? There's quite a bit that we covered there. Took about 30 minutes. One thing that I just want to share before we get to the office hours topic is this article from NPR that I saw last week about Google Ads. This is not, something that has really developed into anything yet, but it's definitely gonna turn into something. So the title is "Google Says It Doesn't Monopolize Digital Ad Market. Senators Don't Buy It." And I don't buy it either. They are clearly a monopoly in conjunction with Facebook. They're really a duopoly, and they have taken all the digital ads, all the digital ad revenue from newspapers. It's been a trend that we've been seeing unfold over the last few years. They're getting more and more of that market, and so that's really been a problem for newspapers. So this could be the start of kind of a little bit of pushback there. It's not going to be an overnight thing where newspapers suddenly get all this ad revenue back. But if they do impose regulations, or if there's some type of a lawsuit, an antitrust lawsuit against Google, this could be good news for newspapers. I don't know exactly what it means or what it would look like if they put some kind of regulation on Google, maybe to pay newspapers for the content that they're featuring on their Google search results. I mean, who knows what this could actually look like? And I don't even know if the lawmakers know what they want it to look like. But basically, they're starting to confront these big tech companies that have been, just stealing this whole market share from all the other publishers. It's funny that this guy, the one testifying for Google, says that publishers and advertisers have choices other than Google. He pointed out the fact that digital advertising prices have fallen over the years as evidence that competition is robust. I mean, that's just total garbage. It's Google and Facebook that have driven the prices down and made it impossible for other publishers like newspapers to compete. So that they really don't have competition for this kind of digital advertising, and I think it's finally they're finally gonna have to address this somehow. So that's just an interesting story I saw on NPR. We'll include it on our blog this week, and we'll just continue to monitor this because it looks like the Justice Department is going to be filing a lawsuit against Google in the coming weeks. So it's just something that we've got our eye on as a company that supports newspapers. Okay, so that's pretty much all I got for the news. Let's jump into the demo. So we're talking about how the reverse publishing process. So I've got my InDesign template here ready to go. Let's just run through this here. This first article, we can use this. This is actually kind of an old one, but I wanted to use it because it's got some bold and it's got italics in here. So let's see how this looks when we do the export. If I go to the dashboard and go to reverse publishing. Actually, I'm just gonna probably do articles. I'm gonna do this one article at a time. Now, where was that? It's probably way back here. Got a lot of tests in here. Yeah, maybe that one is not the best one to use. Let's just take a recent one. It'll just be simpler this way. Okay, so we'll actually call this test bold and italic export. So I was actually messing around with this earlier, so you can see just like plain text without any styling on it, a test with bold and a test with italics, and we got a picture in here too. So let's update this, and I think I'm going to want to use the edition export for this. So let's put it in an edition. I don't think it already has one. So September 21st, that works. Add it to that. Okay. And so now that we have it in an edition, let's go to,
Wait, did you update?
Did I update?
After you added the edition.
Thank you. Let me double check that. Okay. Let's see, reverse publishing. Let's go to that plugin. Sometimes I skip over it. Where is it? Here we go. It's already. Okay, 921 is the latest edition. That's always going to show up at the top of the list. We'll just export all categories, all content from the selected edition. So this is just the first export, and really what we're testing here is that bold and italics. Okay, there's my zip folder. Unzip that. Okay, let's open that up. I liked how Meg showed us that she just does a quick check here to make sure it all looks right before she does the import into InDesign. So here, let's just take a look at this code. This is XML, so it's just going to be kind of like an HTML code. So we've got the test here, and we've got a paragraph break. Then we've got test bold, and the tag on that has a strong tag on it. So that's what's going to make it appear bold. We've got EM, which is the code or the tag for italics. So that has applied to the test italic sentence there. And then we've got our graphic. So that, is what corresponds to what we saw in the article. And it matches what we saw here exactly. So let's just look at that side by side here. Okay, so test bold, test italics, and then graphic. So there's a link to the image graphic. Okay. Now let's lay that out. I'll do File, Import XML. Then you're going to go to your downloads and look for that edition date. There it is, 9/21. Import XML. Merge content. I just assume always use merge. Then we've got the story here, test bold and italic export, title, body, and graphic. So we don't really need to test the title, but let's go ahead and do that anyway. And then the body, I'm just going to bring that all in one shot here. Okay, So let's zoom in because you can't really tell at this level, but you see that it has applied those styles, the bold and italics. So that's just, it's really, it should just work without any changes on the export page or any changes in InDesign, because strong, I think, is just the universal tag for bold, and EM is the same thing. So InDesign already uses these as your default presets. Hold on one second. Let me shut this one down. Okay. So that should just work. I think Meg, when she tried it at first, for some reason, it didn't quite work for her, but maybe that's because she had different settings in InDesign than the default. But I can tell you, I've never changed any of the presets for bold or italics in InDesign. And when I did my first test of this, it just worked. So if you have any issues at all, just contact ops and we'll jump on a call to make sure your InDesign settings are correct. But by default, that should just work. So that's nice to have. You know, basically, it's going to automatically apply those tags without changing anything on the export page, because it's not like the title, subhead, byline stuff where you have to make sure that this matches what's in InDesign. It's just automatically going to apply those bold settings. Okay, so now yeah.
Will those settings work for a caption as well?
Let's see here. You know, that's a really good question. Let's test that. Let's actually do that test as part of this second part. This is a great idea, Terry. So we'll make a change. I'm going to make a change to this story by adding a caption. Ooh, actually, I may have already answered your question here because it doesn't look like caption. I don't really see options to bold in the caption anyway. Right? Is there? Let's see. If we update it, can we do it here?
I'm just thinking that we have a couple papers that have different kind of scenarios for how they handle standalone images.
Okay. Right.
Yeah, sometimes they'll use the caption, they'll have the first few words will be bold.
Right. Right. Well, it looks like it does work. So I just kind of answered my own question there. So I think when you're editing okay, see that? It applied the tags in this caption. So,
Awesome.
okay, that's what it is. What we have here on the image details is HTML. That's what is in this box. So when I first typed it out, you know, if I type out, you know, more caption, there's no option to set it as bold in the image details because this is HTML, but I could manually do it strong. I could make this part strong and then /strong. It should work. Update. Okay, cool. So you see how that made it bold, that new portion. So
That's awesome.
yeah, it's just a side note. I never even thought about this before, styling the caption. So you can't do it on the image editor unless you use the HTML code, but you can do it here. So I could keep writing in this caption probably, you know, write more text and then make it bold. Okay, let's make this portion bold. And then I go back to this, it puts that code in there for me. So it's probably easier to just write your caption out in text and then update and then apply any styling that you want on the rich text editor, like on this page.
Very
Unless
cool.
you know you want to use the code. Yeah, that is neat. All right, so let's update. And remember, with reverse publishing, it's always going to be tracking your last export. So if I'm making changes to this story, it's a good thing to, before I update or after I update, check when was the last export. And I see that this export was, you know, about 10 minutes ago. So I know that I've got to export this again to get it into print and make sure everything matches. So let's go to reverse publishing. Select the same edition. We can just either export all the content or just the changes. Let's do that just for demonstration, I'm gonna only export the changes. Now we only have one story in this edition, but if we had 10 stories in here and I just changed the one, then it's probably simplest to just export the changes from the selected edition so you don't get all 10 stories again. But I mean, really, it doesn't make much difference because as long as you're merging everything in InDesign, it doesn't matter if you take, 9 unchanged stories and 1 changed story and merge everything, because then those 9 stories just won't change in InDesign. But, it's kind of a preference thing, I guess. So let's export that. It's going to have a 1 next to the file now so that we know this is the most recent one. Okay, unzip that and go back to InDesign. Let's do another import XML. And I'm going to go back to my downloads. That's just my process. Okay, choose that same file. So it should have the exact same name within the zip folder. The zip folder itself has the 1 after it, so you can keep track. But this should have the exact same name. And assuming it's all the same, I can merge the content. Huh, wait a second, did it not work? Oh no, what did I do wrong? So let's back up a second here. This is troubleshooting. Let's make sure I didn't actually check to make sure that this file said what I wanted to. So let's open that text editor. Okay, oh, I just realized that I didn't make the change. I messed up the test. So let's do one more thing here. Let's change something on the actual article because I just realized I didn't lay out the image before. So I need to make a change in here in just the text. Actually, here's what we can do. Sorry, this is all mixed up now a little bit, but let's go back. Let's actually import the original XML again. Let's just reset the whole thing. Pretend that I didn't do that second merge. Let's get this graphic in here. That's what we got to do. We got to get the graphic and the caption in there. So let's say, here's my image. There's the football caption. Let's just put the, whoop, why did I do that? Oh, let's put the caption. This template isn't really set up to take captions. So let's add something here. Let's add a block for captions. There's my caption under the image. Now let's take this, put it right there. Okay, so now test caption. Oh, yeah, so I screwed up this test because I think I screwed it up. Yeah, or maybe not. I think maybe the answer to your question, Terry, is maybe it doesn't actually work for the caption. So we may have to look into that. Let's just reset for a second and just do it the way that I know works. So let's just put here in testing merge changes. Okay, so now what we're gonna do is just update the body of the article, not the caption, with some new content because I just added some more to this article. I added, this last sentence. So now what we should be able to do, this should be very straightforward. If I update that, and we'll do a third export. Okay, we'll just do everything from this. And now it has a 2 there. Okay, unzip that. Now, okay, now I'm just going to explain what should happen here. When I import this XML and merge it, then we should see that 4th sentence show up here underneath test italics. That's what I'm expecting. So let's see if that happens. Got to find the right folder. Okay, open, merge. Whoops. Okay, now I did it wrong again. One thing that's key with the merge is you've got to have the root folder selected, because you got to make sure. What just happened there was I imported another root folder and it added it at the bottom here. So what I've got to do is select the original root folder, say import XML, and then we're going to merge with that original root folder. Okay, great. So that did work the way I expected. So you see it added this new sentence because we basically replaced the first one with the updated story. So kind of a little bit of steps in there that you got to remember, unfortunately, but that's just kind of working within the constraints of InDesign and this whole XML console here. So just to review, you got to make sure that you save all your changes on the website, do another export, make sure you're importing the latest XML file, and you keep track of that by looking at the numbers. So make sure it's the highest number for that edition. But before you do that import, you got to choose this root folder and make sure that you merge it with that root folder. Otherwise, it'll basically append that content instead. That's I think what happened. I inadvertently appended it when I was trying to merge it. So does that make sense, Terry? Or did you get kind of lost in all those mistakes?
I don't know, I think that makes sense.
Okay, yeah, I mean that was some good troubleshooting there. So this is the type of thing that some people come across when they first try this. They might get a little bit confused. So that's why we're available to jump on, either go to a meeting or you can join us for office hours and work out some of these issues if you're thinking about switching to reverse publishing. I mean, to be honest, this whole merge thing itself, it doesn't even sound like Meg uses it, and she's, one of the publishers that does reverse publishing. So this is only, I think, if you make significant changes to the article and you just want to replace the original. I think a lot of publishers, what she said that she does is, if she's got to change something in the story, then she'll just change it in InDesign and then go change it on the website too. Because sometimes it is just easier to do that rather than going, like if you got to change literally like one character, then it's probably quicker to just change it here, go to the website, change it there. But I think if you're looking at changes to multiple articles and significant changes to each of those stories, you might want to just do the merge process and just kind of replace the original export that way. Okay. Any other questions on reverse publishing for today, Terry, or you think we're good?
No, I think I'm good.
Cool. I hope this has been helpful for you and Vera to see this stuff every week, because I think we're going to get more people asking about this. So it would just be really helpful to have you guys, be able to answer those questions. But let me know if you're still unsure. I'm still kind of getting familiar with it too, so I still sometimes have to ask James, but that's just because I don't really use these programs on a regular basis. I think anyone that wants to use this, you get very comfortable with it quickly. If you're used to using InDesign, it's pretty much a cinch, because what our process does is it bulk exports everything and allows you to get everything out of the website in one shot, and then basically get it into InDesign as smoothly as possible. And once it's in there, you're good to go and just do your normal layout process.
So what's the process that publishers use if they're not using reverse publishing? Are they doing everything in a Word doc?
Right. Yeah, right. I think what we're seeing is that most publishers are still using Word and emailing the articles to the paginator to do their layout process, or emailing it to the editor first. They make the changes, finalize everything. Some people are switching to Google Docs. We're seeing more of that. So that might be a really natural way to step into it, because we've got the Google Docs add-on that you could use to get the stories into the website. So it's like everyone's writing and doing all their editing in Google Docs just because it is a great program and maybe your writers prefer that. And then they can send them into WordPress to kind of collect all the stories in one place so that they're not in all these 10 or 20 different Google Docs in different places, and then do the bulk export from WordPress. I think that would be the way to do it. Some people could also, another workflow, I mean, there's just countless ways that you can do it. You could write the stories in Google Docs, send them into the WordPress website, and then the paginator could still go back to that original Google Doc to bring it into InDesign if that's what they prefer. It's really just a matter of preference, and we want to make this whole system as flexible as possible. So actually, we're talking to Brent, and he's got some really unique ideas about using different programs for his process, and he wants to plug it into the WordPress site. So hopefully we'll sync up with him soon. Vera is saying either Word or Account Scout, yes, or another CRM to manage it. Yeah, so Vera, coming from an actual newspaper, would know better than us. But we do see a lot of different cases, I think, out there. So at some point, we should probably follow up. I wanted to talk to James about some of the things. Did you see what Brent was suggesting in that email about like Zapier? I don't know if you noticed that ticket he responded.
Yeah, he was talking about it on our phone call there.
Oh, he was talking about it there? Okay. Yeah, that stuff would be all new to me, but that's okay. It doesn't mean that we can't look at it and work with him on making it
Well, I
work
think
for
you're
us.
right. I think it's like reinventing the wheel. I mean, and I did stress that. I told him that we're always excited to hear ideas.
Right.
And, I told him the process of reviewing code and stuff, but I said, don't let that hold you back. I said, just let us know. We may already have something that will work just the way you want it to without,
Right.
needing a new plugin.
Right. Yep. Yeah, I want to follow up with him shortly. I will take the lead on that because I think I want to be involved and hear him describe his vision on a phone call rather than in an email. It might be a little bit clearer to me, and maybe even get James involved. But
He's
we'll,
super energetic.
yeah,
Really, really. And he might be a good one to talk to about videos because his dad does Facebook on a regular basis.
Oh, really?
Yep, little 3-minute videos he plugs on Facebook.
Oh, really? Let me check that out. So is that on the Savannah Reporter Facebook page?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure they're linked on their home site.
Oh, is it on that website? Okay. Well, here, I think this is it right here.
Yeah, that's it.
Okay. I like it. Let's see here. That is cool. That's good to know. Oh, yeah, there's a video right there.
Yep.
Okay, that is a good lead, Terry, because I want to work on getting a look at that.
Oh,
I want to get a video. Oh, that was just a couple weeks ago. I want to do a conference on getting into video, but I want this to be not just me talking. I want to get publishers that are doing stuff on Facebook. There's Wilson County News, they do the live video. There's the one up in, what is it, Michigan or something, the Hometown Focus. They have a
yeah.
live video, right?
Yeah.
They have like a live video feed.
The reason that I like this one was because he's not a young guy.
Right.
I
Yeah.
mean,
Look at that. Yeah. So
yeah,
he's showing you that anyone can do it. It's not just, you don't have to be like a super social media savvy. If you just have a Facebook account, it's really easy to go live. You just got to do it. You just got to try it.
the
And
ones
just,
that I saw, it was a while back, but he teases the paper.
right. That's awesome. That is really great. Okay, yeah, we wanna get in with these guys. I haven't really talked to his dad at all. I just talked to Brent through the whole process of them signing up. So I've never even met him. So that would be the person that I want to reach out to next. I think the whole Zapier thing and reverse publishing is more of a long-term project. So I'll follow up with him on that in the ticket. But at the same time, I want to get this going because I want to do that conference in October, probably the second week of October, and just talk about different ways that newspapers are actually getting into video, not just like theoretically, this is how you could do it, you know, some real world examples and have people talk about it. And I think it would be cool to have Kristen and her daughter on because that's like a multi-generational business now. It was, I don't know if it was founded by Kristen's mother, but she was definitely the publisher before Kristen. Now Kristen is in charge, it looks like, and her daughter is helping her with a lot of the paper. So that's kind of a cool story to share with people too. So awesome. That's a really good point, Terry. Thank you. Anything else you want to point out with before we call it a meeting for today? We've actually gone for an hour here, it looks like. Anything else?
No, I think I'm good.
Awesome. Good meeting. This was fun. We covered a lot. Let me know if you guys have any feedback, and we'll get this out to all of our customers in the newsletter tomorrow. So thank you very much, and we'll talk to you later in the week, Terry. Thank you.
Yep, sounds good.
Thanks, Vera. Talk to you later. Thanks for the comments.